note of recalling MPs. Now, we know very well this was a conversation that began when we had a section of leaders affiliated to the opposition vote against the finance bill. But some did not take that stand. They went ahead and supported that bill. But just looking at that whole process of recalling your legislators, 4 of those grounds, and of course, gross violation of the Constitution of Kenya, we have committing an offense under the Elections Act, as well as the misconduct likely to bring disrepute to the office and the mismanagement of public funds. When you're looking at this from a law perspective and you see what the legislators did, one would argue that they exercised their constitutional right in taking a stand. Do we have a case right here in terms of recalling these legislators?
I am not a lawyer,
Yeah.
nor am I a scholar in parliamentary or electoral matters. But I think the point here is that at least there's a conversation.
Okay.
And more important, that people are trying to now be aware that such provisions exist. It is possible that in the course of trying to recall my colleagues, as by the party's direction, there may be stumbling blocks.
Yeah.
But more than that, there may also be new areas in jurisprudence that will come out.
Yeah.
I know most of them will rush to court, and the courts may interpret some of these provisions. And to me, it's positive. But rather than go that way, you know, when I said that it's time for Parliament to go home, and Parliament I meant the National Assembly,
Yeah.
many of my colleagues started mocking me that I'm not well read. I don't read the Constitution. Never mind, I have a PhD. But then I was trying to make a point here that this is a conversation we must start. And I'm happy the parties have picked it up.
Yeah.
And if you listen to our political leaders, Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and Honorable Raila Odinga, they have taken the cue too, and many other Kenyans. Now, look at the NADCO report, for example. What was signed into law today is a fruit of the NADCO report. The NADCO report was not in the Constitution, but it was a bipartisan agreement.
Okay.
We could take that route and say, okay, Kenyans have lost faith in Parliament. Let us have a bipartisan approach. And minority leader and majority leader sit and agree to give us a send-home package. It happens in public service.
But are these not what the Gen Zs and those out there on the streets are saying? We don't want any more of this sit-downs. We're tired of these multi-sectoral groups that are being formed, these discussions. We want actionable things to actually take.
My theory is this.
Yeah.
We will need to move forward.
Okay.
And most of us will not want to go home, because by having been elected, we have already set legitimate expectations.
All right.
And some of our things have crystallized. You know, I mean, we live in this world, so some of us have taken obligations, loans, and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm borrowing this from purely HR practice, because I've been a CEO. You have somebody with a 5-year contract, you realize you don't need him anymore, you call him and tell him, hey, you have 2 more years to go. Can I pay you your balance of the years? Let me tell you, if we did that today, and every member of Parliament was given his salary and house allowance equivalent,
Yeah.
it will cost us less than 10 billion shillings. I've done the math.
Okay.
And that is cheaper than having this Parliament for the next 3 years. I can tell you that probably, if we continue the way we are, in terms of adding value to this country, it may be more than the 10 billion shillings. And for me, the 10 billion will be a drop, because then the same money will be used by the members to try and get their seats. So the money will be within the economy. That's my argument.
Okay. All right.
The flip side is we stay on. Our budget is what? Almost 40 billion a year, or 40 something billion a year for the next 3 years. We'll gobble 120 billion. Which means that every month in the National Assembly, we are spending about 4 billion shillings,
Yeah.
or 3 point something billion. And for the 3 months we'll be out, we would have spent the 10 billion that we can get upfront.
Okay, all right. Let me bring
another way.
Yes, just let's bring in Bob on this, because Bob, I know you're following up on this convo. We're just looking and talking about that issue pertaining to the practicality of this issue pertaining to recalling of legislators. I mean, there are certain stumbling blocks right here constitutionally and just looking at the dynamics of our governance. But a party like ODM seems to have gotten wind of this, and they're actually going to most probably go down this route and just whip up emotions and use it to their advantage, which is what politicians do. Do you think there's any sense of practicality in calling these legislators, especially pertaining to the timelines? Hear me? Bob, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. I don't know if
Okay.
I don't know if you
Yes,
got.
I can hear you. I can hear you. I was saying, joining your question to the earlier one that you had asked about, responding to the call for an overhaul of the system, and my response to that is that I think what I'm getting from the Gen Z is that they do not particularly want an overhaul of the system in terms of the structural integrity of how our institutions and our processes are designed. What they are sick of, and they are showing their anger and demanding an overhaul of, are the agents within those systems. The servants they send to the House of Representations, the houses of legislation, the houses of oversight, equip them with mandate, equip them with finances to undertake those duties. But the same people have betrayed them, they have failed them, and those are the people that the Gen Zs and other Kenyans are calling for an overhaul of, in terms of removing them from the system, so that the Kenyans can employ other people who can work within that system. So we need to distinguish that. It is not a call for the dismantling or overhaul of the structural integrity of the system as is designed in the Constitution, but the anger is being directed to the agents and the operatives within those institutions and within that system, that they are failing to animate that system as Kenyans designed it. So I think that is what, going forward, we need to be looking into, and it is what I think. Please allow me to finish. I think it is what Mtumishi there is also speaking to, that if we are keen to listen and pay heed to the words of Matthew 11:15, those who have ears, let them hear. What the young Kenyans, our young patriots, are calling for is for our consciences, our presence of mind, to be struck at the point where we have to feel what Kenyans are asking and what they are saying, that they are sick to the hilt with the performance of the men and women they send to the August House to represent them. And it doesn't have to get to the technicalities. It doesn't have to get into what does the law say, what is the loophole, what is the technicality. Let us pay heed to the palpability of the mood of the country and do what these very conscientious patriots are calling for. I think that is how we should look at this. Because if we start getting into the technicalities, start hiding behind loopholes, which are the things we've been doing, making our brothers and sisters have to get to the streets to remind us of these things. When we talk about we are moving towards anarchy, who has shown anarchy? When you ignore a court order, that's basically going beyond the rule of law, and that is anarchy. So anarchy is not only when you see people on the street. You can have anarchy with a veil of civilization, of civility. And so sometimes when we call out our fellow patriots, let us also look at ourselves. Because sometimes we are calling them out, saying some people are lazy, whereas we can't show them any effort we have put in whatever we do to correctly or in an honest way bring back on home. We are saying that they are using insulting language. And I bet you when you switch on our news bulletins or listen to news bulletins and watch our politicians, it's insults left, right, and center. So what you're seeing on the street also, and we are getting surprised at, is a product of how we have been conducting ourselves as leaders, and even in our homes. So let us listen. We call ourselves people, religious people. Why don't we pay heed even, and I quoted Matthew 11:15, those who have ears, let them hear. Those who have eyes, let them see. And those who have brains and minds, let them understand.
Well said, right.
When we get there, that is when we can start talking to each other properly.
Well said right there. Bob Mkangi is a constitutional lawyer saying very clearly that we shouldn't necessarily hide behind the loopholes of the law, and when we start going technical, that's when this whole conversation will take a different turn. He believes we don't need to get to the stipulations within the law. Certain issues just need action, and action is all that is needed as of the moment. We want to take a short break right here in Punchline. When I get back with Mheshimiwa to give us his final sentiments as we wind up on the discussion.
Are you a church and seeking to reach an even bigger congregation? K24 TV